Yes, we're back again. We're back. This is the DeepWaterMMA.com podcast breaking down your best bets and favorites for all your UFC action. We've been doing this for it's been about 7 months now already. Can you believe
Wow.
it? Yeah, 7 months. So we're here today.
How many podcasts is that?
How many podcasts?
Do we even know
I think
anymore?
It's 14, or maybe this is
Number
the 15th
14,
one, possibly.
with the most appropriate music to date.
Yes, this
the
weekend.
intro.
Yes, I'm Dan Kennard, your host, here with the connoisseur, Cale Loveridge. And we're back again, back in the DeepWaterMMA.com studios.
Beach
here
studios.
in Fort Pierce, Florida.
Fort Beach.
To break it down for the people, UFC Fight Night 26, formerly known as UFC on Fox 1, which I'm glad they fixed. That was a very awkward naming system they had.
I didn't get the name
That they were
there.
about to go with. Yeah.
I'm glad. You know what's funny?
They were about to roll with that.
I didn't really see the change happen or anything. Like I just started noticing that it's called Fight Night 26 now.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. I thought it was
quiet little change.
UFC on Fox Sports 1-1 or something.
And it was.
Was it 11 or 1?
1-1. Yeah. So this weekend, the entire card will be televised live,
5 hours,
and free. All 5 hours of it on Fox Sports 1, which is the channel, which apparently everyone or most people should have access to. That's my understanding. It's not a channel yet. This will be the first day of its existence. They're kicking it off in style from Boston, Massachusetts.
That's awesome. I read a little thing that said that people in certain parts of the country, their cable providers, that's not the... It's like the step above the basic cable package. You know what I mean? So some people are upset about that, but Dana White was saying, I saw a thing that said it won't affect enough people to affect... like the UFC or whatever, to actually make him care, kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's kind of what he said. He's like,
well,
it does not enough people for me to care.
Yeah.
So it's a Speed channel.
Formerly the Speed channel, becoming Fox Sports 1.
Yeah. So
Nice.
a lot of people, everyone has a. I think
most
64 is the Speed channel or something now. I mean, on
Where
most.
we are.
Yeah,
I don't know.
on most TV.
Well, good riddance to the Speed channel.
Yeah.
Welcome, Fox Sports 1.
Yeah. Who watches Speed channel?
I don't know. I've never really watched it.
Next.
But, this weekend, live from Boston, Massachusetts. I am, personally, I'm pretty psyched up for this card. It's stacked from the top to the bottom. I mean, there's literally, I know a fighter pretty well in each fight, except maybe one. I don't know.
I didn't know the guy fighting Ramsey.
There's a few newcomers.
There's he's 4-0, and I don't follow every 4-0 guy out there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So, yeah.
Other than that, every fight on the card, we know the guys. They're great fighters, and a couple of them, you're like, wow, that's going to be a brawl.
Yeah.
Like, more than a couple, you're like, that's going to be a real fight.
I have highlighted a couple as potential fight of the night, so
nice.
We'll kind of get to that.
Let's dive in.
Yeah, let's dive in. There's no best bet yet this week. We are hard at work on that after our last one didn't go the way we wanted it to say the least. I think our best bet, we picked an underdog, so it's admittedly risky.
It's hard.
We thought that was the best value on the last card. You know, what can we tell you? So
you don't win them all.
But we're 10-3 overall. Still a pretty sexy little best bet record.
Awesome.
So this one will not be an underdog this week. So check back later in the week for our best bet. We should have that posted by the end of the week, just to make sure we got everything straight before we make it public. You know?
Well, you got to dot your I's, cross your T's, add the 3. Don't forget about the little equation on the side.
Yeah,
you know,
all that stuff. Yeah. So we're making sure we're double checking that stuff. Right
pineapple plus pear equals potato. You got to think of these things.
90% of the time.
95% of the time.
So let's dive into it. We'll start from the top of the card here. The main event: Mauricio Shogun Rua makes his return. I feel like it's been a while. I feel like it's been a little while since we've seen Shogun Rua.
He got a little banged up in his fight with Brandon Vera.
Okay.
You know,
That's
he took a little time off. I think he was injured, and he's been working a lot with different coaches and stuff.
Okay.
I think he took a little bit more time between fights this time.
So maybe he's clearing his head a little bit.
I think that's pretty smart for Shogun.
Yeah, at this point in his career, he's got 28 fights. He's not that old. He's not like 35 or something.
Every time I hear his name, I can't help but think of the Pride lady screaming, "Hoo-ah!"
Nice. Bruce Buffer needs to do that. He needs to bring that back.
See, back in the day in Pride, they would have like the chick would say it in like some crazy way, and then they have like the straight Japanese guy.
Yeah.
So like when they come out, they get announced by like the crazy Japanese guy or crazy lady, and then once they get in the ring, or then they announce him again like all serious, like okay, but she's like the crazy.
That's awesome. So Mauricio Shogun, who at 21-7.
We digress already.
As we get this back on track, 21-7. So a pretty good record there. BestFightOdds.com has the best odds as him as a slight underdog. He's a plus 123 underdog against Chael Sonnen.
Wow.
Who is
slight underdog.
27-13-1 and a minus 133 there for Chael Sonnen.
I don't know how much I would agree with that, but I guess you have to pick a favorite. I would say dead. I would say it was
just a pick, straight even
just
pick.
a straight pick 'em, But I guess the way they're thinking is such high profile fights that Chael's come off of.
Right.
I mean, Chael's last fight was against John Jones. Shogun's last fight was against Brendan Vera.
Yeah, that's true.
Chael
Sonnen,
you have to give him the edge on that way, or some way. He has to,
Yes, I mean, if you're going to pick, I mean, if it's not going to be even, this could be an underdog situation where you kind of, whoever ends up being the underdog on Fight Night, maybe you just go with that guy.
It's just
it could unfold in so many different ways that if you are going to bet on this, which you don't necessarily have to do, but if you were going to, I think you could take the underdog there. But we'll talk it out more maybe, and maybe that'll help the people make a decision. So, maybe we'll try to be a little bit quick with this one, I guess. Maybe we'll
got a lot of fights to talk about.
We got a lot of fights to talk about here in a limited amount of time.
We're just going to give you some info, hit you in the face with it, and move on.
Right. So, like a Rory McDonald jab, we're going to hit you in the face, and we're going to move on to the next one. Yeah. So, how do you see this one going? How do you see it going, and who do you see winning?
I always talk about like streaks and like
you talk about that a lot.
different things to look at, and Hua. And you talk about this a lot too, just this aspect of he hasn't lost ever in his career back-to-back fights.
Right.
Okay, he's coming off a loss to Alexander Gustafsson. I'm sorry, I forgot about that fight. I said earlier last fight was Brandon Vera. Last fight was Alexander Gustafsson.
That's right.
That's why it took him a while. He lost. He had a big loss, against a big-name opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know how I forgot about that, but he's never lost back-to-back fights, though, like I said.
Yeah.
His last two in a row, though, he beat Mark Coleman and Chuck Liddell. So he
that's a while.
He loses one and he wins one. That's kind of his motto lately.
Right.
Okay. Earlier in his career, he was on a long streak. But the last time he won two in a row, he beat Mark Coleman, then Chuck Liddell, then lost to Lyoto Machida, which a lot of people thought he won. Then won to Lyoto Machida, and then he lost again.
Yeah.
Okay. To John Jones.
Yeah.
So. That being said, and let's go to the other side. Chael Sonnen is 500 in the UFC. He's got a 500 record in the UFC. He's got as many wins as he does losses.
Yeah.
His last fight, he was 27 seconds away from a technical knockout against John Jones because if they would have noticed John Jones' toe, they would have had to stop the fight and it would have been technical knockout because in championship fights, that's the way it works.
Yeah. How many times has Sonnen been like 27 to 45 seconds
away from being the champ?
From multiple division championships, yeah. All right, so back to what you were saying there, yeah. So,
Sonnen,
poor Sonnen.
This is his second fight in light heavyweight in the UFC.
Yeah.
His first fight, he fought for the belt. His second fight, he's fighting Shogun Hua, the champ before the champ he just fought and lost to. I just hit you with all that. Because it's important to think of these things when you're trying to make a pick.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Hua has never lost back-to-back, okay? But there comes a time when every kind of like streak like that, it's not so much of a streak, but it's more of
like a trend.
A trend.
Yeah.
Trends end.
Yep.
I think Hua is going to attack Sonnen early and gas. And Sonnen will be there the whole time. Sonnen's going to come right out And he's going to try a takedown within the first 10, 20 seconds.
Yeah,
I mean, he's going to...
Exactly.
It's going to end two ways, and I've said this a bunch before. It's either Hua's going to TKO him, or Sonnen's going to grind out a decision. And if you're Chael Sonnen, you kind of have to win this fight. You're the face of the UFC, really. You're
become
on
that,
UFC tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're the biggest shit talker in the UFC.
Yeah.
You're probably more people know Chael Sonnen than they do anybody. I mean, he talks shit about LeBron James all the time.
Yeah.
It's just pretty funny. He hit him with some good stuff. His mom went west. I mean,
That's funny.
He went south. His mom went west.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna hit you with it. Sonnen by decision.
Sonnen by decision. This is 5 rounds.
After beat up a little bit too. Yeah. Well, we've seen Sonnen go 5 rounds. We know he's got the gas tank. Does Hua have the gas tank?
That's a good point. That could be the crucial turning point in which outcome turns out, right?
Oh, and we both have a little stat here.
We've both written this down.
The 44% takedown defense.
That's pretty low.
Not that great.
No, that's not that great.
I don't think Shogun worries about the takedown so much. Maybe that he doesn't worry about it. He throws his strikes with such abandon that he gets taken down, but he doesn't worry about that either because he's got a good ground game. I mean, he's submitted to people before. He's submitted Mark Coleman. He submitted a bunch of... He's a good leg lock guy, too. He's done a couple of knee bars. He kept knee barred Kevin Randleman, Mark Coleman.
And Sonnen likes to hang out in the guard a lot. He doesn't really try to pass too much. He just try to... There's so many things.
There's so many dynamics to this fight.
There's so many little fringe things.
I'm writing all this stuff down earlier, and I thought, I'm over picking fights, man. I mean, I'm not. But I'm like, at the time, I'm over picking it. I don't want to have to pick.
Sometimes.
It's hard.
It's hard. Yeah, I'm torn on this one, too. So you're going Sonnen by decision.
That's kind of like my safe pick.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I don't usually do
totally understand that. I'm not. I might have to talk this out right now because I'm so sort of torn on this one. But Shogun Rua has that takedown defense rate that we just mentioned. That's pretty low. And I wrote down on here if that will be the story of the fight. And I feel like maybe along with Rua's cardio, which is sort of notably not great. Right after about a round and a half or so, Rua sort of fades to a certain point.
He throws everything
he doesn't,
he's got.
Yeah, he doesn't fade out completely. I think it's worth being subtle here when we talk about this because some guys gas out and they can't even walk around anymore, But like Rua gasses out, but he's got some sort of like mentality that he's still gonna like if you're calling somebody a zombie at a certain point, like I feel like Rua could fit that description of just sort of a relentless. Like, even though he's exhausted, he doesn't care. He's going to sweep you. He's going to push you away with, like, a big exhale, right, as he, like, clears from you. And you can see him take a breath when he does it.
His face is all red.
But then he keeps walking at you, so it's not like he's trying to catch his... He never seems to be trying to catch his breath. In other words, I think he has a pretty good mental sense that he just needs to complete the duties of being a fighter, and then he can relax. I feel like he fights with this sort of mentality that even though he's totally exhausted... Like, he's just going to keep trotting along. Like, he's just going to keep coming.
The Brazilian zombie.
Because he knows he can rest later or something. You know what I mean? Like, he never gives up in a fight.
I think we just
never
made
gives
up a
up in a fight. What was that?
The Brazilian zombie.
The Brazilian zombie. That's not bad. That's not bad. If Shogun ever goes away, that's not a bad replacement. But, I'm leaning towards... Right, I think... The only thing that worries me with a Sonnen decision, which I totally respect as a choice, I think it's kind of likely. It's 25 minutes here that he's going to have to basically lay and pray on top of Rua. And I think Rua, because of that sort of like zombie nature, will maybe in like the third and a half, fourth round, when Sonnen's starting to get a little tired too, maybe find a way to just clip Sonnen and get Sonnen to turtle up and kind of wrap things up late in the fight or something like that.
He's going to Anderson Silva him.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, something, maybe not a submission, but like he'll figure out a way
TKO
to kind of TKO him or just at least get back to his feet.
I can't
I'm
argue
so
with
torn
that at all.
I feel like I feel like both of us have described the two most likely routes that this fight takes. I think first of all, it's going over 3 rounds. I think if you get to pick, right, it's going over 3 rounds, unless Rua ends it early, because Sonnen's not going to end it early. So if it goes over 3 rounds. We talk about Rua's cardio, but it's not like Sonnen is in, tip top come round 4. I mean, we've seen that. We know what he's going to do. So I think Rua, I don't know. I guess I'm going to go Rua. I'm not totally confident. I like him as an underdog pick. If you're looking for value in an underdog, in a fight that we both said should probably be a pick 'em, if one guy's an underdog, then that's value to me. So, maybe you put a little bit on Hua. I think Hua's... I mean, either one of these guys, though. So I pick Hua, but not confidently. This is a tough fight.
One thing I didn't write down that I like to look at is age. I don't know who the older fighter is. I think Shogun probably... I don't know.
I wonder...
I think Sonnen might be older. Shogun's not that old. He's not an old guy.
No, he's been around for a while,
He's
but
just
he's
been
not
around
old.
because he was really young when he started. He's in his young...
It's like him and like Vitor Belfort, kind of like that.
Yeah, they're the same age. They're real close. That's a factor. This is a tough fight. It's hard to pick these kind of fights. Man.
Yeah.
It's a great main event.
It's going to be awesome main event. It should be a great fight, yeah.
So I'm going with Chael. You're going with Shogun.
I'm going with Hua. Neither one of us super confident in either one of those picks. So you've heard the versions. Let's move down the card. We have an exciting one here, I think. Might not last. Our analysis might be longer than the fight. But we'll go heavyweights. Alistair Overeem, 36-12. He's a minus 200 favorite.
That's nuts.
Taking on Travis Brown, who's 14-1-1 and who is a plus 188 underdog.
36-12.
36. That's a lot of fights. That's 48 fights.
Professional fights.
Yeah.
That's MMA fights, and he was He was a K1 champion. Think of how many kickboxing fights.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's been in a lot of fights. Man.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, in the NFL, you talk about that. You talk about the idea of like running backs carrying the ball too much, just because of the amount of hits that accumulate. I think that partially applies to MMA too. When you have a guy who's fought 48 times, 48 fights plus
a couple times
plus K1 fights. So you're talking like 100 fights probably in his whole career. I mean, that's is that more than like a running back carrying the ball 300 times for 6 straight years? I mean. At some point you have to start fading away. Yeah,
they go hard in training.
The training too. So I mean, at some point you have to kind of start declining, right? It's impossible. It's literally impossible to maintain.
With that being said,
that's
where I was going.
Okay,
Travis Brown, right?
Yeah,
he's had 15 professional fights, 16.
Yep,
that's enough. He didn't start.
He's in the thick of it
I read
now.
a thing though. He didn't start MMA till he was like 25.
Yeah, right.
And he was a basketball player.
Yeah,
like full scholarship basketball player.
Yep.
I forget where he went, but
he's 6'7". I mean, he's tall.
So he's 6'7", but in his last fight, he got pounded out by Bigfoot after he tore his hamstring.
Yep.
Or no, his last fight.
That wasn't his last
fight.
Fight.
It was Gabriel Gonzaga. His last loss. That's what I meant.
His last loss.
Because I'm talking about losses here. Last loss was against
Bigfoot.
Alistair Overeem's last loss was his last fight, was against Bigfoot.
Yep.
They both got pounded out by Bigfoot.
Which is crazy.
But Alistair Overeem got overwhelmed by Bigfoot. Travis Brown tore his hamstring and got TKO'd.
Right. A little more excusable.
A little bit more excusable.
Right, you can kind of understand why that happened.
What does that mean, though? Does that mean anything,
I don't know. Alistair Overeem's sort of notoriously kind of unpredictable, Like, you never really know how he's going to look or, like, what his deal is going to be. I have an interesting stat here, and then I want to ask you a question. Alistair Overeem, we said he has 36 wins. He has won more fights by submission in his career than by KO or TKO, Alistair Overeem. Is that surprising to you?
No. I'll tell you why. Because he's changed as a fighter. When I first saw Alistair Overeem come out, the first fight I ever saw Alistair Overeem in, he beat Igor Vachchanchyn. Igor Vachchanchyn was a beast back in the day, and at the time he beat him, he guillotine choked him against the ropes in Pride. He didn't, because Pride was fought in the ring. He didn't pull guard. He standing guillotine choked him against the ropes.
Wow.
And that's exactly, it was like, wow, because Igor Vachchanchyn at the time was a beast and was wrecking people. And Alistair Overeem was a skinny Dutch kid with a big scar on his face who carried a big hammer down to the ring. He was the Demolition Man. And he was a skinny, tall, 205-pound fighter. And I saw him guillotine a bunch of guys. That was his move for a long time. He guillotined Vitor Belfort. I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't know that.
He guillotined...
I'm not the connoisseur. You are.
He guillotined a bunch of guys in Pride. If you go back and look, I'm just having a slight brain fart. It's hard to remember every fight.
Yeah.
But then again, he's been knocked out.
Yeah,
We've seen him be knocked out by Shogun twice.
I have 7 of his 12 losses have been by KO.
Chuck Liddell knocked him out. If you watch, obviously Bigfoot has knocked him out. If you watch him fight, it's either that he's going to overwhelm his opponent or his opponent is going to catch him. That's kind of how he loses. I mean, you see
the two paths there.
There's really only two paths to his fight, and even in the Bigfoot fight, you saw that. At first, he was kind of overwhelming him, staying away, but his cockiness got to him, and he got caught.
So it sounds like you're saying if you can survive Overeem for about a round or a round and a half, that you've got a much better chance of winning towards the end of the fight.
If you watched the Chuck Liddell fight back in the day, he was taking it to Chuck Liddell. Like, he was catching him, he was winning the fight. Like, the dude's got amazing stand-up. He trained for a long time.
He's a K1
in the same place that Tyrone Spong came out of. If anybody keeps any tabs of MMA, they know who Tyrone Spong is. He's training at Blackzilians right now, and he's
just won in Bellator
world
over the
champion.
Weekend. World Series of Fighting over the weekend.
World champion kickboxer and a bad motherfucker. Like, will hurt you bad.
Yeah.
So he trained with him forever, and all the greats over there. He's got amazing stand-up.
So how do you see this one going? I mean, this is another tough one. There's two right off the bat here that I'm torn on. Both of them are super close. They're two of the closest fights, according to the odds, on the whole card.
Travis Brown trains with Greg Jackson's gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see you got that. He's fighting out Jackson's MMA. Good game plan, good footwork.
I make special note of guys who are fighting out of certain camps.
Exactly.
And Jackson's MMA is one of those camps that if a guy is fighting out of that camp, you got to pay a little extra attention because that means something.
I think that Travis Brown will game plan to clinch and take down. And it sounds crazy that he would clinch with Alistair Overeem, but he's the taller guy.
He is taller by about 3 inches.
And I don't think he's going to clinch and strike. He's going to try to tie up and take him down with trips or throws or something. He's got to get the fight to the ground, right?
Travis Brown,
Yeah, Travis Brown's got to get the fight to the ground. You can't stand up with Alistair Overeem for 3 rounds.
I wouldn't recommend it. That was
try to win the fight.
That was my game. I was actually at a question. What's your game plan for Travis Brown? Because
you got to try to grab him and trip him and throw him or something. I mean, but
can he do that? That's the question.
It's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough.
I think it's going to be a tough night for Travis Brown. I think Alistair Overeem. Just like I said, Chael has to win this fight. I like to pick those guys. I think you have to win this fight. Yeah. Sometimes it's too much pressure. Overeem.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's too much pressure.
Right.
But I think he has to win this fight, man. Former Strikeforce and Dream champion, and you've only have one win in the UFC.
Yeah, you're 1-1 so far or something.
You got to do something, man. And you're Alistair Overeem, dude. Like, you're supposed to be knocking people out here. Not getting knocked out.
I think I'm going the same direction. This is another close one. I think Alistair Overeem's experience and technical abilities standing will be the difference. I think, like you said, Brown to win has to get it to the ground somehow or tie it up or clinch. And I don't think he'll be able to. He might be able to do that for a little bit. Maybe after he's already losing a round or two, if Overeem gets tired or something. But I think Overeem sort of understands. I would assume that he understands his most likely paths to losing and will do everything he can to avoid sort of spending too much time against the cage and too much time on his back, because if he's on his back, that's his worst position if you're Alistair Overeem. But then again, Travis Brown he's not like a Division I wrestler. He was a basketball player, so his wrestling can't be quite like a Phil Davis or something, where you're able to control the guy. I think if he can get Overeem down, I think Overeem will be able to get back up, and I think will maybe land more strikes, land more effective strikes, more jabs, more kind of win the striking battle. I think this could be a close fight. I think maybe a split decision. I'm going split decision for Alistair Overeem in this fight.
Remember I said this. This might not be an exciting fight.
It
might be Alistair Overeem being kind of cautious with Travis Brown trying to implement his footwork and trying to tie up, and he can't. And it ends up not being a great fight like you think, and Alistair Overeem wins a decision.
Yeah. I kind of see it heading that way the more I sort of talk this out. All right, let's keep moving down the card. We got a few more fights here. Uriah Faber at bantamweight. He's 28-6 overall. He's a minus 260 favorite. He's taking on Yuri Alcantara out of Brazil, who is 28-4 and is a plus 246 underdog. How do you see this one going? Let's just cut to the chase.
Let's just talk about Yuri real quick and why he deserves this fight. 24 of his 28 wins have been by KO or sub. He just fought at 155 pounds in 2011. Sorry about that. And connoisseuring there. He beat Ricardo Lamas in the WEC first round stoppage. Yuri Alcantara is no joke. He's a bad motherfucker. He knocks people out.
Yep.
He's got heavy hands. Hakran Diaz took him down a bunch and kind of played it safe against him and beat him in his first UFC. But this is the thing. Faber's never lost a non-title bout, ever. He's beat Eddie Wineland, Brian Bowles, Evan Menjivar, Scott Jorgensen, a bunch of great good guys recently in UFC. Got more UFC experience. He's got big fight experience. He's got a ton of experience. He's going to do Uriah Faber. He's going to be quicker. He's going to take him down because Hakran Diaz just took Uri Alcantara down. And Hakran Diaz is a good fighter.
Over and over again. Yeah.
But I could Faber's if Hakran Diaz can take him down, Faber's going to take him down. He's going to grind him out.
Yeah, I think that logic totally works right here. I like the odds. I don't know. I mean, these odds are pretty accurate. I think these are good odds. So I'm not sure if there's too much value.
Don't
here.
let your jaw drop though if Yuri Alcantara knocks Uriah Faber out.
Yeah, because I have all the same stuff
He
written
can knock
down.
anybody out.
Yeah, exactly. And he's finished 24 of his 28 wins have come by a stoppage. So that's pretty high rate. But he'll have a slight reach advantage, 2 inches. I guess that's not. I mean, I think Faber's smart enough to navigate 2 inches, but
that's pretty solid though, man. In fighting, 2 inches is
2 inches
solid.
obviously makes a difference. You know, if you're getting on the end of a punch or something. But you mentioned he only loses to elite fighters. He's won 2 in a row. I feel like you said, don't be surprised if Alcantara wins. Like, don't put your whole house on Faber here because you know who Faber is and stuff, and he's in a Nike commercial. Alcantara is kind of a badass. But he can be taken down, so I think that's the thing that's going to work against him in this fight. On the flip side, Uriah Faber has those 2 losses to Mike Brown, and Mike Brown is one of those sort of stocky, sort of Dan Henderson types, you know, who just kind of keeps his feet and kind of slings hooks and straights and things like that. And he lost twice to Brown. I mean, I understand there's certain matchups that just don't work, whether it's a whole team or individuals. Like, sometimes just weird matchups.
That was weird back in the day in the UFC or EWC.
Yeah.
You know what happened though?
He did break his hand once.
He got
I remember.
way too cocky in the first fight and tried this weird flying elbow and got caught.
Yeah.
First time in his career. I'm not defending Uriah Faber, but if you follow people's career and you see that things are and you analyze it,
you need to follow the trajectory and stuff.
He got way too cocky. He thought he could tear apart Mike Thomas Brown, and this is at the peak of Mike Thomas's Brown career, and the guy's powerful. He's got great, he's got hard punches, and he caught Uriah. And then in the second fight, I think he broke both his hands.
He was throwing elbows the whole,
and he was throwing elbows, yeah. So,
and he hung around, so it's not like he got finished. So
he got beat, but I just think he's at a different level now, and he's training with Team Alpha Male, and they got Dwayne Ludwig out there, and Ludwig's on a roll, and Team Alpha Male is on a roll. Uriah Faber's going to win.
Yeah, I'm taking Uriah Faber too.
Bam!
He dominated Scott Jorgensen. He beat Menjivar in a round and a half or whatever. So he's really been dominant with these non-title bouts. I mean, against the best of the absolute best.
I think I'm going to take that as my dominated. What do you call that? Catchphrase.
Catchphrase?
Nobody has that one. Bam!
Bam!
No, that's
no one has. Yeah, Emerald has that. Yeah. Well, we can steal it. Where's Emerald? He's not around anymore.
I'm just kidding.
So Uriah Faber minus 260. We feel pretty confident about Uriah Faber. That might be a good one. But then again, don't go crazy because Alcantara, tough dude, and who knows what he could catch him with.
He's Brazilian.
He's Brazilian. If this was last week in Brazil, this might be a lot different. But let's move down the card. We got a few more here. Mike Pyle, who is bringing the mullet back to the octagon.
Yeah, bring it back, pile of shit.
He's 25, 8-1. He's a slight underdog here, plus 147 against Matt Brown, who is 17-11, and a slight minus 144 favorite.
Is that his record? 17-11.
17-11.
Wow.
Yeah. So before this 5-fight winning streak that he's been on, he was 12-11.
Wow.
Right. So he was on the verge of being cut. I feel like this one comes down to who can impose their skill set on the other guy. Matt Brown wants to keep this fight standing, where he should have the advantage with his aggression and his toughness, right? And he should be able to hit Mike Pyle at least. If it goes to the ground, Mike Pyle takes the advantage, right? Because he's a pretty slick veteran, and slick kind of on a different level of slickness. Like, Mike Pyle's so slick that you don't even... Like, when fighters say they don't see a punch coming, you don't see his submissions coming. Like
you
they're
don't see his punches coming either, man.
They're so
good.
clever. He's a real
tricky.
sneaky little fighter.
He
So
is.
Matt Brown is going to have his hands
And
full
by the
here.
way, he's a replacement for Thiago Alves.
That's right.
Remember, think of that fight in your head for a second.
Oof.
Matt Brown and Thiago Alves.
That was
Please,
great.
no matter what happens, can we please see that?
Just rebook that.
Just
right
rebook
afterwards,
it right
no matter what
after. I
happens?
don't care what happens.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Mike Pyle has 25 wins in his whole career. 16 of those are by submission, but his last win by sub was in 2010. So it's been a couple years since he's won by submission.
Yeah, he's took a different. He used to be more of a sub guy, and he's taken a different route. He's more of an all-around guy. He knock you out, submit you TKO now. You know, and his last couple fights have been crazy comebacks. The only time he's lost in the whole UFC career has been to Rory McDonald.
Yeah, which is
That's pretty
nothing to be
badass,
ashamed
dude.
of.
A lot of people have
Yeah.
lost to Rory McDonald. You know?
And more people will continue.
Only
to
one
lose.
person has ever beat him, and
Yeah.
he was losing the fight.
Yeah. So Matt Brown, 5-fight winning streak. He finished 4 of those 5, but then you have that weird stat that he's lost, of his 11 losses, 9 of them have been by submission. So you have a submission sort of specialist, although maybe not recently, against a guy who tends to lose by submission. So
you know what it is with Matt Brown? I don't think it's so much he has bad submission defense or anything, but when he gets on top, he doesn't have a great top game, and he gets caught because he gets stationary.
I think he also gasses out a little bit.
He gets stationary. He does.
He gets into that hua zone.
That was the thing, though. He
gets into the hua zone. He doesn't totally collapse.
He's changed his style a lot.
Yeah.
You know, in these last 5 fights, he's been a completely different fighter, and now he's been training with the Cuban Olympic wrestling team, and he went over there and trained with the Cuban boxing team and stuff, and you can just see it. Yeah, man, he's awesome lately. Yeah. The fact that he's not so scared of getting taken down and getting submitted anymore has let his
sort of freed him up.
Has freed him up in his stand-up and his hands. It's mostly his hands. He throws in hard kicks, but it's mostly hands, man. And I see him putting too much pressure on Mike Pyle. I remember the whole Rory McDonald fight. Mike Pyle got stopped. Rory McDonald was over top of him, and he hit him with a couple punches, and he turned his back, and the ref stopped it. You know, and I see Brown catching him, and then TKOing him. I just see it 5 straight. Let's go for 6.
Why not sit? You like streaks? You're a streak guy.
Yeah.
Self-admitted streak guy.
And I feel that when people are in the prime of their streak, you need to jump on it. Jump on that bandwagon. Ride it until the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
I'm riding it.
I'm
on the Matt Brown train, baby.
Ride it. I like it. I think this fight has fight of the night potential written all over
it.
I think between Matt Brown and Mike Pyle both guys are so scrappy that I think this could be. It might not be the most technically brilliant fight, but I think it'll be one of those fights that gets the crowd psyched up for the last 2 fights of the night, if the other ones haven't already, or the last 3 fights of the night. So I'm kind of with you on this one. This is another close fight that I'm torn on. I like Mike Pyle. I like his slickness, but I think you made a lot of good points about Matt Brown. I think he's going to keep it standing, tag Pyle enough, and have the toughness to finish the job. I think that's how it'll be. Either a 3rd-round decision or maybe a late TKO stoppage, because Pyle's a tough dude. But I don't see him getting caught in a submission as slick as Pyle is. I think he's hopefully at this point in his career smarter than that, right? And knows to maybe stay out of the guard for too long and just get up, right? He's better off just standing. He's got to know that. So hopefully he can. If he keeps it standing, Matt Brown wins. If it spends a long time on the ground, Mike Pyle's chances go way up.
Yep.
But I'm taking Mike Brown as a pick. And we'll keep moving down the card here. We have middleweights. Uriah Hall making his first return to the octagon after an anticlimactic finish to the Tough series where he lost to Kevin Gastelum. But he's 7-3. He's still young in his career, I think. He's a huge favorite in this fight, minus 407. And he's taking on John Howard, who is a UFC... who was released earlier on and has now come back to the UFC just for this fight. And he's a pretty big underdog. He's plus 363. There's a couple interesting stats here. Uriah Hall's going to have an 8.5-inch reach advantage.
That's crazy.
So if he uses it, that kind of right there sort of cuts right to the chase. If Uriah Hall can keep his reach and stay away from John Howard,
his distance right, it should be
a decision or a finish for Uriah Hall at some point, right?
If you look, man, John Howard's tough as shit, though.
He's tough,
He won his 5
That might be
last 6.
his most notable quality.
But, I mean, he lost to Jake Ellenberger, Thiago Alves, and Matt Brown, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those guys are killers. I mean, you lost to 3 killers. You didn't lose to
Right.
some guy who was his first appearance in the octagon. And,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
You lost to some really great... And by the way, Uriah Hall was supposed to fight Nick Ring and Josh Salmon.
Right. So this is his third opponent.
And John Howard is from Boston.
Right. I wanted to mention
And
that too.
the whole bombing thing
He
happened
wanted
in
the
Boston.
fight. He wanted this fight because it's in his hometown.
The whole
He wants
bombing thing
this,
happened there, and I this is the first UFC since that. I feel like all the guys from Boston are going to be going nuts.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick Uriah Hall because I think he's the better fighter overall. But man, John Howard has a great left hook. He's right-handed, but he's got a great left hook. If John Howard catches Uriah Hall, he can finish him. They can both finish each other.
Yeah.
I just see Uriah Hall being too much. He's got better camp, better trainers. He should win the fight. I mean, the Kevin Gastelum thing, you can kind of excuse it if he comes out and wins this thing.
A lot of people actually sort of thought he won. You know, I mean, it was a close loss. He didn't lose in any kind of obvious way. He lost the fight. The judges decided. I get it. I understand.
I
why
thought
he
lost pretty obviously, just because he got taken down and he got caught. I mean, he did a good job getting back up a couple times and stuff, but he got took back down.
He was never able to get going.
No.
Yeah. So you're going Hall by unanimous decision.
Yep.
I'm taking Hall too. I don't know if I'll bet on him with these odds. He seems like too much of a favorite.
Yeah.
Considering John Howard's abilities, so I might just kind of let this one go or put it into maybe a small parlay. I think Uriah Hall, between his reach advantage and coming off of that really disappointing loss, you have to imagine that he's a little devastated after that. I think he's going to be in bounce-back mode, and I think when you mention John Howard fighting in his hometown, right, the reason anyone ever mentions that is because that's a motivating factor for fighters, right? If you're fighting in your hometown, you
got home court advantage.
You got home court advantage. You have motivation in your training for a couple weeks. But I think on the flip side, Uriah Hall has just as much motivation to do well in this fight because he's coming off of that loss to Kevin Gastelum.
Yeah.
So I'm taking Uriah Hall by maybe second or third round TKO. I think he finishes the fight. Otherwise by a decision, maybe a clear decision over John Howard, who I think John Howard is going to have his nose broken in this fight. I don't know how susceptible he is to nose breaks, but I think
he's going to have a nose break.
Like if Hall fights this fight the right way, Howard's going to be eating a lot of jabs, right? With that 8.5 inches, I think he's just going to be taking it to the face. And decision, late finish by Uriah Hall. That's kind of what I'm going for. But again, not such a huge favorite that I trust him with mine 4-1. You know, so we have one more fight on the main card. And then we have our quick hits portion, which we're gonna go quickly through. But lightweights here.
I can't wait for this fight.
This is another one
because it's the first one. I just can't wait for this fight to go, and then it's like it's
and then the whole rest of the card starts rolling.
Well, the main card,
Yeah, the main card. Man, stacked card. This is the first fight of the main card, although the entire thing is on TV, so it's kind of weird to say main card. But lightweights,
I know, right, isn't it?
It's like the whole thing's just one big card at this point.
It is just one big card. This
one big, just awesome card.
I always talk about it a lot too.
Yeah,
because I was a big Pride fan. By the way, when you hear us, we do drink during the podcast.
We do a little bit.
We do. We should just burp straight into the microphone.
Maybe we should just admit it.
Just admit it.
Yeah.
But I digress. This reminds me of the old Pride cards. Every fight you want to watch. You don't want to miss the prelims, dude.
No, not this one.
That's the way. There was no prelims. There's no prelims. It's just first fight of the night, last fight. That's it. You can have co-main events, main events. Some fights are bigger than others.
Whatever.
Who's to say, though, honestly, that the Brad Pickett-Michael McDonald fight is...
Which we're going to talk about next.
Shouldn't be on the card versus Matt Brown and Mike Pyle.
Yeah,
or you could take Uriah Hall and John Howard off.
Yeah.
You could just swap any of these.
Yeah.
I mean, Overeem and Brown and Shogun and Hua, I feel like have to be on the two headlining fights.
It's a good. It's like
other than that, you flip flop.
It's like an 8-fight main card.
Yeah, it is.
Like the top 8 fights out of like 11 or 12 are all awesome, and
there's no slow fights.
There's nothing terrible here. So the last one, or the first one, I guess, of the main card, Joe Lozon. 22-8, who I'm going to... A brief shout-out here to Kelly Miller of DeepWaterMMA. He is a big Joe Lozon fan.
Yeah, Kelly.
Minus 231.
He's smart.
Yeah, minus 231 favorite here against Michael Johnson, who's 12-8, and a plus 210 underdog. Joe Lozon fighting in Massachusetts, kind of a hometown thing. How do you see this one going?
You know what? Honestly, I don't know why. I just have like this premonition that Joe Lozon is going to submit him in the first round, and the crowd's going to go nuts.
That's not the most unreasonable
all I'm going to
thing.
say.
Yeah,
that's it. Michael Johnson's good. I know who Michael Johnson is. He trains with the Black Zillions. He's really athletic and
he's quick,
but he's susceptible to losses. He can lose. He can lose different ways.
Yeah.
Joe Lozon's going to submit him, dude.
Joe Lozon.
It's going to be like fireworks, tie up, submit him.
Yeah.
Done. And then the roof is going to collapse on the building.
In the Boston
and
TD
they're going
Garden.
to have to stop it. Yeah.
I love it. I love what you just said because I pretty much agree with it. Michael Johnson's, he's athletic, he's a good quick striker, he's all these sort of usual things. He doesn't have any great, super standout ability.
Nope.
Joe Lozon does. Right, and we all, if you've been paying attention, Joe Lozon is tough. He hangs around. Cardio could be an issue for Joe Lozon, but if it goes the way you're expecting, he might not even need his cardio. He's going to finish this thing fast. 18 of his 22 wins are by submission. 6 of Michael Johnson's 8 losses are by submission. I don't know if there's that much more to say, really. Right, unless he gets caught by Michael Johnson, which could happen with anybody. Right,
anybody can get caught in any fight, but Joe Lozon's not losing in Boston.
Joe Lozon will not lose. He will
retire.
Exactly. If he loses, if he loses. So I'm taking Joe Lozon by. I like what you said. First round submission. I think he just comes in, fireworks it, and gets out of there and starts his Boston party while he watches the rest of the main
He's probably
card.
going to drink a beer as he's walking. I don't think he drinks at all.
Immediately afterwards or something, right?
Somebody's going to be drinking.
So yeah, I'm going Joe Lozon here. His last 5 wins have all been by sub, too, by the way. So if he's going to win, it's going to be by sub. So if you're looking for another bet, maybe that's the best thing to do, too. Yeah, all right. The undercard, as I guess it's technically being referred to.
I like how we both write down only 2 out of the undercard. There's too many to talk about.
There's too many. There's some good ones.
We both write down 2, and they're the same 2 fights.
These are the appetizers, but these are like the good appetizers.
Yeah.
You know, like these are the ones that we're looking
at.
Those are the
buffalo wings, right?
These are the buffalo wings,
and the
not
cheesy bread.
Yeah, yeah. This is not your
mozzarella sticks.
I don't know. What's a bad appetizer? What are we
like? This is not cauliflower.
Yeah, this is not cauliflower and dipping sauce. This is fucking buffalo wings, the perfect hot flavor.
It's not celery with peanut butter.
Yeah. So these are two great fights on the undercard. We'll start in the bantamweight division. Brad One Punch Pickett traveling from England to Boston. He's 23-7. He's a slight underdog in this one, plus 175. He's taking on Michael Mayday McDonald, who's 15-2 and a minus 208 favorite. How do you see this one going?
Well, Michael McDonald's 22 years old. Brad Pickett's 34. You could say, the experience is going to play a factor, but I think Michael Johnson is pretty experienced. Or, I'm sorry.
Michael McDonald.
Michael McDonald. I'm looking at my paper here. Michael McDonald is more experienced.
17 fights. He's like Travis Brown. He's in the thick of it, right? We can start to learn. We should start as viewers to understand his abilities after 17
and he just fought for the title.
Yeah.
You know, and he was giving Burrell, a great fight before he lost.
Yeah, 4 rounds.
We're gonna be quick. I'm gonna be quick with it. I love Brad Pickett. I love his style. He's great in scrambles. I see he's a really amazing fighter. He's got great stand-up boxing skills. So is Michael McDonald. I see it being a close fight, and McDonald getting more takedowns. But don't be surprised if Pickett takes McDonald down. It's so hard sometimes.
Another great
honestly,
fight.
I kind of see Brad Pickett winning, but in my head...
Interesting.
I know. In my head, I'm going to pick Michael McDonald.
Okay.
I think that's my safe pick. I've done that twice. It's the Sonnen thing. I see one guy winning, but I think it's going to go the other way.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's weird how that is, but I just...
No, I think after you pick fights for 7 months and you're doing it on your own without a recording
I've been picking fights
months
for
and years before
yeah.
that, you start to pick up on, you start to sense in yourself, like,
when you're wrong,
sometimes when you're wrong and you don't want to be wrong, but
you have to admit it. Like,
something
I think I'm wrong.
in your body tells you you're wrong, and maybe that's what's going on here.
I think I just like Brad Pickett in his style.
No, he's a cool dude.
He wears the little, like,
comes out the
outfit.
suspenders and stuff.
Yeah,
like he's a cool dude.
And I think he did the Karate Kid crane at the weigh-ins.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, he's a cool dude. I mean, he's 34. I'm going with Michael McDonald too.
Plus Michael McDonald has had some great hit songs, you know, like
right.
Mountain
Let's
High.
not forget about that.
Let's not forget about
he's
his
had a whole
career.
Yeah, before this.
Doobie Brothers. I mean, this kid's got it all.
Yeah, and he's only 22 at this point. I'm taking Michael McDonald too. That was awesome. Yeah, I'm taking McDonald. I think Pickett, like you said, he's 34. I think he's peaked as a fighter. I don't think he's going to get that title shot he's been wanting. As sad as that is to say, I don't think it's going to happen.
Ain't happening.
I think he's peaked as like a top 5 fighter, but not quite a top 1 or 2 fighter. Like, he's around that zone. And the other thing that I've sort of sensed, you talk about a sense about fighters. I'm sort of sensing with Michael McDonald, as much as he's sort of he's so focused. Right? He's 22 years old. He's almost like innocent in his sort of desire to be so good. You know, he's 22. It's almost he doesn't recognize, like what he's saying is almost a cliche, but in some way like that, I totally believe him. I think Michael McDonald. I wrote down here that he's almost got like this sort of psychotic desire to like be the absolute best fighter in his division, and that loss to Renan Barão taught him a lot. I think he's taken that loss. He's digested it, he's processed it, and I think he's going to come out more efficient, more precise, and I think he's going to come out a little nastier because he's seen the top of the mountain, and he's coming back just a little bit here to Brad Pickett, but I think he goes right back up again with a statement win over Brad Pickett. I think McDonald finishes this fight.
Wow.
Finishes it.
Wow.
That's what I'm going. I'm going Michael McDonald. I think it could be a fight of the night. This is another one that I think could be a great fight of the night.
I don't think a loss always hurts a good fighter, you know, especially early in your career, man.
Not when you're 22.
Especially a title fight to the champion.
No, he's got 10 years left to
Dominic
figure this
Cruz, let's not forget, got one arm guillotined in the WEC by Uriah Faber.
Yeah.
Okay, and now he's the champ, and he was awesome after that.
George St. Pierre loses to Matt Hughes, comes back, beats up Matt Hughes.
And when he lost to Matt Serra, he has been unbeatable. He was, before that he was pretty unbeatable, but he has been completely dominating.
So whatever that is with those guys, I think Michael McDonald has it too, and I think his brain has turned a corner.
Think of that.
And I think he comes out and not blows the doors off Brad Pickett because nobody does that, but I think he beats Brad Pickett in a clear and decisive fashion, no matter how it ends. So I'm taking Michael McDonald on that one. I think he's a great bet at -208.
Man, this next one
as I'm talking myself into it. Yeah, here we go.
This
last
next
one
one
of
is
the
fucking me up. This is like my
podcast.
2 favorite dudes fighting. It's crazy.
It's tough, man. Here we go. Featherweight.
I didn't like it when it was announced.
You didn't like? I know. It's like we're eliminating one of our guys that we enjoy to watch.
I didn't like it.
Close fight. Or it could be, right? But, yeah, featherweights, Conor McGregor, he's 13-2. He's the 2-division Cage Warriors
Fighting
champion, 2 divisions. He's at this point, a -259 favorite against Max Holloway, who's 7-2, and is a +231 underdog. So, I mean, none of these fights are that wildly lopsided compared to some of these last couple cards.
Dude, let me tell you real quick.
Yeah, go.
Max Holloway is from the west side of Oahu. He's from Waianae, Oahu. When I was younger, I moved out to Hawaii, to Oahu, and where we moved was the ghetto because we were fixing up this house.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a long story short, it was in Waianae. People in Waianae do not have money. This kid comes from a poor little place.
Yeah.
He's in the UFC, dude. He's the youngest fighter in the UFC. If you ever go over and you see where he's from, this guy gets so much props from me. He came from nothing. I mean, I don't know if his family was poor. I'm not saying that. But not a lot of people have any money over there.
Yeah.
And people are scrappy, and everyone fights. Everyone fights over there. If you get in an argument, you fight. You know, it's crazy. It's like the Wild West. You call the cops, they don't show up. I mean, it's if you look up Waianae, Hawaii, or Makaha, Hawaii, it's not an easy neighborhood. You know, and it used to be a lot tougher. It's lightened up, but So I have some kind of.
So you're torn. It's a
Max
tough fight to
Holloway,
call.
when he first showed up, and he's like from Waianae, Hawaii, and then I read about him and stuff. He's from this little tiny gym, and then he moved.
Yeah.
It's just like he started out of nothing, and he's only 21.
Yeah, he's young. Yeah.
21, right?
Yeah,
Oh, man.
that's about right.
But then you got Conor McGregor. Most people who are going to listen to this probably know who Conor McGregor is by now.
Yeah.
He's probably one of the biggest prospects in MMA, if not the biggest
Lately,
prospect
in the last year or so.
in MMA
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
And he's Irish, and I'm an Irish guy. It's messing me up, man.
It's great. It's great.
Messing me up.
Yeah, but it's great,
I'm gonna have to close my eyes during this one. I feel like they're one of their moms watching, My boys are fighting.
Conor McGregor, he won his debut in the first round. The only thing that makes me nervous...
Impressive.
He was
rewatched
super
that.
impressive.
Go rewatch that.
The only thing that makes me nervous about McGregor is that he did take some punches from Marcus Brimage. Like he was ready to take them, and he knew that he was ready to take the hit, but he let himself get the hit, take the hit. And his boldness can be risky, I think. And against a creative striker like Max Holloway, who we mentioned in his last fight against Dennis Bermudez, which he lost by split decision. A lot of people had Max Holloway winning that fight.
He won the fight. I've watched it like 3-4 times since.
Right.
He won the fight.
He gets the split decision
He won the first
loss.
2 rounds easily.
Yeah, and he showed he was a creative striker. And I remember on the podcast afterwards.
Awesome, man.
I remember on the podcast after that saying to not sleep on Max Holloway. So I felt the same way you did when they announced this fight, because this was not Conor McGregor's first opponent. Andy Ogle was his first opponent.
That's right.
That's a little bit of an easier choice, I think. But now that you have 2 strikers, and we have this Max Holloway, who we were sort of talking about before.
I love the way the guy fights.
Totally,
too,
I understand where you're coming from. This is a tricky little fight. I guess it comes down to whether or not you're buying the hype around Conor McGregor. I think I am. I think I'm buying the hype around Conor McGregor.
I rewatched his fight with Marcus Brimage about 5 or 6 times lately, and man, more times I watch it, the more impressive it is.
Yeah.
He got punched once. If you watch it, I remember thinking, I got caught a few times. If you really watch and pay attention, they all missed but one shot, and he got caught. He backed up, and he came forward, and that was towards the end of the fight.
Yeah.
That's when he hit his first uppercut, and then backed him up. And then,
and kind of
20 seconds later, he hit him with the 3 or 4 uppercuts and got him, But, man, it was so impressive.
Yeah.
And just the ferocity the guy had. Even after it was done, I loved when he was doing his little pose. Remember that?
Yeah.
They tried to fuck with his flag, though. I remember that, too. They were, taking his flag away. I know they won't do that this time. But,
no, they can't.
Especially
not
in Boston.
Not in Boston, no way.
They ain't fucking with the Irish flag.
No, not in Boston.
Home
of the Celtics.
I think this is going to be the fight of the night. And
another great call.
This is going to be the fight of the night, and Conor McGregor will win a decision because he'll just catch him a few more times.
Okay, that's a solid pick. I'm my decision on this one. I was like you, I was a little torn. I started digging into things a little bit. Max Holloway has 7 wins, like we said. 5 of those 7 wins have come by decision. So I feel like as creative, even though he is a creative striker, maybe he doesn't have that finishing ability that he needs against a guy like Conor McGregor. So even if he does catch Conor McGregor with something, which he could, I don't think McGregor seems to have a pretty tough chin. I think McGregor takes it, probably just dusts it off, and keeps coming back at Max Holloway. So I think if you're going, it's almost like possession in a soccer game or something. I feel like McGregor's going to have more possession and maybe just land more punches, like you said, just kind of clip him a little bit more, but at a noticeable rate where by the end of the fight, you're like, okay, Conor McGregor won that fight. So This could go decision. I think this could be another great fight of the night contender, along with a couple other ones.
What else is on the card? Let's just bullshit real quick.
I didn't write it down, so I'm kind of blanking, but there's...
Diego Brandau's
fighting.
Cole Miller is fighting Manny Gambarian.
That'll be a good fight.
God, there's many
some other
great
good ones.
Fights,
we mentioned Ramsey Nijim, right? At the beginning of the podcast, we mentioned that, I think, didn't we? Or did we not mention that?
Ramsey Nijim.
Did we mention that? Anyway,
He's fighting. He's the very first one.
He's like the first fight. He's taking on another tough guy who kind of
like I said, he's a 4-0 guy.
He's 4-0. He hasn't fought for a while, so you gotta maybe be careful. But yeah, it's a great card. Hopefully everybody gets Fox Sports 1 come Saturday, and you can settle in with a nice little 12-pack.
Best card UFC history.
Yeah, definitely top 5. I'd have to look.
This is my
in order to
favorite,
commit
man. This
to
is
it,
my
but
favorite.
Fantastic card, top to bottom. You got 5 hours of free MMA here on Fox Sports 1. So good luck, everybody, if you're putting these bets down. Anything else to say there, Connoisseur?
No, man, I can't wait.
That's it. Can't wait. We'll talk to everybody next Wednesday.
I'm like Bart Scott. Can't wait.
Can't wait. We'll talk to everybody next week.
Peace.
Peace.